All right, the Cochise County Board of Supervisors meeting for what would be the Board of Equalization is called to order. We're going to do, for the public's knowledge, we have a couple matters to deal with regarding property taxes and whatnot. We're going to take care of that first, and then we're going to go to the general meeting that I know a lot of you are here for. So we're going to try to expedite this as quickly as possible. So we are here, the agenda for the Board of Equalization meeting, Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion and possible action. Members of the public may also attend this meeting via Microsoft Teams, computer or mobile app, or via phone, calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714. Conference ID 1040970 #. If you have trouble accessing this meeting remotely, call 520-432-9200 for direction. The board may permit public comment during the discussion on any item on this agenda. To speak on an agenda item, complete and return the speaker request form to the clerk of the board prior to the start of the meeting. We're going to do roll call. District 1, Crosby is here. District 2, District 3, Antonori is present. All right, first we're going to hear from our county assessor, Mr. Leindecker, who will explain why we are here. Sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. As county assessor, you have before you an agenda item that we dealt with as far as a Board of Equalization hearing back on the 8th of January. The motion you have before you is to ratify or amend the decision that was made by the hearing officer of the board at that hearing. To give you a little background on valuation appeals that we deal with that is required of this office and this Board of Equalization, there's basically two mechanisms for a property owner to file an appeal on their valuation and their classification. The first mechanism is an administrative appeal, and that is done, allowed to the property owner each and every year. There's a time restriction on filing an appeal. My office, by statute, has to send out a valuation notice every year to the property owner. And once the property owner gets that, there's a 60-day period in which the property owner can file an appeal and challenge the full cash value or the classification on that parcel. Once that 60-day time period is over, they've lost that administrative appeal. The second mechanism to appeal would be to go to tax court, and they have until December 15th of that valuation year to file in tax court to challenge or appeal a full cash value or a classification. That's an annual process. There's a third mechanism to file an appeal by the property owner, and that is if there is discovered a verifiable error, something that is an error in the property assessment that is clearly doesn't involve discretion, doesn't involve opinion or judgment on the appraisal standpoint, it's an obvious error. So what you have before you in this hearing is there was a notice of claim filed by the petitioner, by the property owner, claiming an error. Extensive documentation was supplied, and it was basically an appeal of the valuation and classification going back several years. The problem with that is after our office reviewed all of the documentation, it was determined by statutory definition there was no error. The decision at the A level of the administrative review of this claim was back to the property owner that there was no error discovered. Clearly, there was no documentation submitted by the property owner verifying or showing any type of error in the property assessment for 22, 23, or 24 years. That decision then was appealed to the BOE, and the hearing officer with the State Board of Equalization heard the case. The hearing officer then opened the hearing up to more of a valuation appeal, and it was a lengthy hearing. And my position, I kept going back to the position is if there is a verifiable error, we need documentation. And the appeal was basically a valuation and classification appeal going back several years. The hearing officer actually requested direction from legal counsel. Our chief deputy attorney was on the line. He provided legal direction to the hearing officer. She then promptly went her own way and made a decision reclassifying the property and reducing the valuation and changing the classification to agricultural status. My recommendation to this board today is based on the fact that the hearing officer did not have the authority to do what she did, and based upon legal direction from our county attorney, I would recommend that this board on this action would amend the decision that you have in front of you and deny the claim that was originally filed with my office.
So if I can ask, how long has is this someone that just recently acquired the property and they're going back, previous tax year, they've owned the property for some time?
They've owned the property for several years.
And they have not made a claim prior to this year about the...
That's correct.
Okay.
They received notification in 22. They received notification in 23. They received notification in 24. And just now they've come and filed a claim of an error wanting to go back for those years, which in fact, those were subject to an appeal through the administrative or judicial process, but not through this error process.
And basically they're requesting the ag exemption from the property tax.
And that was the decision of the hearing officer, was to change the classification and evaluation of the property to agricultural status, which was totally outside the purview of that ability.
Is there any instance that they didn't receive it? I mean, do you get certification? I mean, you have to sign for it when you get the valuation?
The valuation notice goes out on regular mail.
In regular mail?
Yeah, and as do tax bills. And there was no indication from the property owner that they did not receive the valuation notice. And that was all part of the testimony provided at the hearing, that in fact, valuation notices were mailed to the correct address. There was no administrative appeal. There was no judicial appeal. We went through 3 years of that process. And then finally, when they got the tax bill, that's when the lights went off and said, hey, we need to do something.
So Mr. Landecker, let me understand. So there's a process by which any property owner that has properly zoned property could request an ag exemption, whether they're grazing or planting trees or whatnot. There's a process that takes several years of demonstrating agricultural use before you as the assessor grants that exemption. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's a statutory process that we follow to do that. But every year is a new evaluation year, a new assessment year, and the property owner has that ability to challenge and request that classification each and every year. But you're correct. We do review and maintain a review process by statutory guidance as how to do that.
So what I'm getting at is there's a point where that review starts, where the property owner requests, if it isn't already ag exempt and it wasn't acquired as ag exempt. There's a point where the property owner says, I want to now apply for agricultural exemption. And then there's a period of time that they have to demonstrate agricultural use before you make the determination that, yes, you are eligible for the ag.
That's correct. That's part of the statutory process.
Right.
And the process that kicks off that process is the property owner must file an agricultural application with my office to initiate that claim of agricultural use.
All right. Did they file that request?
Not for 3 years.
But I'm saying, have they done it now? And when was that?
The initial form that they filed was in this last year.
So they just started.
And actually that application was denied based upon the facts that it was filed with. So actually when the property owner finally did file an ag application, it actually had to be denied based on merit.
All right.
I have a question, Mr.
Sure, Mr. Crosby.
Do we have anybody with an opposing viewpoint to Mr. Leindecker's this morning?
Yeah, is Mr. The gentleman's name here, Letowski, present? Or a representative of Mr. Letowski? I guess not.
Okay, then let me say this. I thank you for your and your department's continued diligence, Mr. Leindecker. Why does the Board of Supervisors, probably for you, Mr. Correa, why does the Board of Supervisors have the authority to amend the decision of the hearing officer?
This is an appeal from an administrative decision. This is an appeal from an administrative decision. So you're sitting as the County Board of Equalization. Or Board of
Sorry, I
Equalization.
can't hear you either.
It's-
Going deaf,
Yeah,
but
right. So this is your role under statute, acting as the County Board of Equalization to review the administrative hearing officer's decision.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, to amend means to deny the claim.
That's correct.
So such a motion would it would be, the way I see it, essentially the same as agenda item number 1, except for cross out ratify and amend to deny the claim if that's the way that we wanted to go.
Since this is in my district, I'm going to make the motion. So I will make a motion to amend the decision of the State Board of Equalization hearing regarding the notice of claim appeal hearing for the tax year 2022, 23, and 24 filed by the petitioner Stronghold Farms LLC, Mr. Aaron Latowski. So I recommend that we amend it. I make a motion to amend it.
Second.
Seconded. I have a motion, I have seconded. So at that point, we'll just basically go forward and have a vote. Since again, it's my district, I'll go first, and I'll vote aye to amend it and agree that there is no ag exemption basically here. So aye.
And that would be to deny the claim of an error.
That is correct.
Okay.
So I'm agreeing with you, sir.
Okay.
Right. So
If the motion, if I understood it correctly, it was deny the claim.
correct.
Second.
third.
All right. So we have 3-0 to deny the claim and agree with Mr. Leindecker on the amended decision.
Thank you.
Yes,
Does
sir.
that suffice as a call for a vote?
Yeah, that'll do.
Okay.
All right. All right. So that is the only thing on the agenda for this. So at this point, I'm going to now adjourn from the Board of Equalization. This meeting is hereby adjourned.